It's been 5 years since the launch of the hellhole known as Valorant, and we've seen amazing tournaments and plays out of every region in partnership. From the absolute cinema best of 5 finals at Masters Bangkok to boom zipline incident, it's always a pleasure to see teams play at the highest level of Valorant. But have you ever stepped back and wondered what terrible Valorant would look like? Well, you could just hop into a ranked game to see that. But hold on to that thought. You and the E couple who insta-locked Reyna and Sage aren't getting paid to play the game, so it's not the end of the world. But what if you were? For every Paper X and G2 in the league, we also have the absolute dumpster fires. The team that makes you go, I could probably play better, and actually mean it. These teams are in the partnership to keep the balance of good and bad. Law of equivalent exchange, as that one anime goes. Here are the top 5 worst teams in VCT, and I promise you number 1 is not who you think it is. Now, before I begin hating on these teams, I'm going to set some ground rules so that's somewhat fair. Number 1, post-partnership teams only. I'll only be considering teams post-partnership, as pre-2023, the pro scene was like watching golds play. There were also so many teams that would take years for me to scour through each region's trash bags, and frankly, I was not kept up to date with all the regions at the time. 2, only tier 1. In a similar wavelength to the previous rule, I will not be considering tier 2 and 3. No, your premier team that you made with your 4 plat friends doesn't count, even if you won your league. As a person who's played in tier 3 tournaments before, I can confidently say that I'd get my ass clapped by the teams on this list, and it would not be close. 3, no Chinese teams. We love to call China a fraud region, and unfortunately I do agree. If I was to make this list and include my home country, by the end of the video you'd be able to fluently speak Mandarin, in which case you could go and play pro Valorant there to help them out. 4, no Ascension teams. Similar in nature to Rule 2, Ascension teams barely have the chance to prove themselves in the league. Sure, we do have freak cases like G2, but most of the time, Ascension teams are already placed at the bottom of the leaderboard due to less funding and scouting opportunities. If you are a thorough Apex or 2G hater, unfortunately they will not be included. Do know that they are booty cheeks though. Alright, with all that yap out of the way, we can get this show started. Now, I know I said no teams pre-2023, but man, can we appreciate how uncoordinated every team was back then. Let's take First Strike in North America as an example. Tell me why on every map, there's always one team running triple duelist, if not on both sides. They'd also just not have an initiator sometimes, which only worked because both sides hadn't figured out how to play the game yet. Comedically, early Valorant would be like CS because, well, 60% of the top players were CS pros. Utility wouldn't be comboed well either, with most players just trying to frag it out. Now, I could hear the little Timmies complaining, but they didn't have a large agent pool like we do now. Brother, do you know how stupendously broken the characters were in early Valorant? Omen's Flash costed $200 dues. The best util in the whole game costs the same or less than some of the abilities today. Don't even get me started on Jet. Triple smokes that lasted for nearly a whole defuse, double updraft, and an instant dash. You thought that was it? Her knives cost 6 ult points and recharged on right clicks. I vividly remember dominating in this era with the Frenzy and Light shields on Reyna, because for some reason, a Frenzy only cost $400 back then. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that they had the most broken patch of Valorant, and still played like idiots. If we were able to time travel, I wouldn't go back to stop 2 towers from falling, or save the great library of Alexandria. I would be taking my 5 stack in Valorant to 2020, and winning every tournament for the foreseeable 2 years. Getting off topic now. What I'm saying is, Valorant was at its silliest at the time, though that was mostly due to a lack of experience. In retrospect, the early teams of the game have aged very, very poorly. With that out of the way, let's dive into the actual worst teams of all time. The team that has been kicked out of partnership has landed itself as, ironically, the best amongst the worst. Fun fact before we start, did you know that one of the founders for Koi is actually Gerard Piqué, the star centre back from the iconic Barcelona lineup? You guys should subscribe so you get to learn more useless facts about VCT teams. Back to the proper topic. Aging like spoiled milk, movie star Koi actually had a promising first year, being able to throw hands with Na'Vi, who were ex-FPX, and also an ancient R Heretics team that included Spanish legend Mixwell. Funnily enough, this would be the only 2 teams they would be able to beat, as it seemed like every other team was their kryptonite. We would even get a mid-off match against one of the other teams on the list, but you guys will have to stay tuned to see who that is. Koi would even begin a run in the EMEA Last Chance qualifier for Champions Los Angeles, defeating Na'Vi and Heretics to land themselves in the upper finals against fellow Spanish organization Giant Gaming. Fate decided that that was the most Koi would get though, as they would lose and fall into a rematch against Na'Vi. In a moment that is so bitterly ironic, Koi would lose against the team that they were beating all season long, and this would be the first and only chance they would get anywhere close to an international event. Facts can't slow down teams though, and Koi would bounce back. Actually, bounce back is probably the worst phrase I could use here, as they would only get 5 wins across 2024. They would then show that they can go lower, halving that 5 to make it only 2 wins in 2025. Finishing their partnership tenure with 11 wins across 3 years, it's definitely not a fantastic look for the organization. One player I have my heart out for though is IGL Flyer. With him joining in 2025, it felt like he genuinely wanted to turn the team into something better, and his tweets reflected that. He would even sacrifice everything just to come play in European Tier 1, only to join a team that could only beat Ascension teams. We'll never know if Koi will make a comeback as Gentle Mates replaced them in the league, but their legacy will be remembered, even if it's as one of the worst teams in Valorant history. DFM, or Detonation Focus Me, makes an explosive entrance as the 4th team on this list. DFM would ascend from the Japanese circuit to become one of the 2 Japanese teams in the Pacific League. Unlike their big bro Zeta division though, who had gone to several international events, including a Cinderella run at 2022 Reykjavik, DFM had always stayed local. Even then, they would not be the most consistent team in the Japanese circuit, which would raise a couple of eyebrows when they were partnered. Their initial roster will be a 6-man Japanese Korean hybrid, with their most notable player being their duelist, the OG Korean Jet himself, Soldam. Unlike the highlights that he would produce on YouTube, DFM would have 0 of them throughout 2023, going winless for the whole year. This would begin their infamous winless legacy in the Pacific scene, and their solution to losing? A business partnership with a team that had gone to internationals, Crazy Raccoon. It would be in this collaboration that we would get the poster boy of the team, Mei, who's known for just, well, carrying the team. Like Sisyphus though, Mei's back-breaking performances would be futile throughout the beginning of the year, going mapless in kickoff. It got so bad that Faker felt pity for them in stage 1, as T1 would give them their first win on the first week back. And you can just tell how much it means to these players. Hooray! The champagne is being pulled out at DFM headquarters as they break their curse. Unfortunately, it'd be back to usual after this, with DFM being used as fodder throughout stage 1. The good news is that in the derby match, DFM will be able to scrape out a win against Zeta, having another pity win in the year that really wouldn't amount to anything. With another roster shuffle, at the end of 2024, it would actually look hopeful for the team in the offseason. They would slay Champions winner EDG and RRQ at a Chinese Invitational. DFM will continue to punch above their weight, beating Trace and then PRX to flawlessly enter the grand finals, before losing the rematch with the Pacific favorites. Amazing, right? Well, not really, because they would lose the plot in the regular season of 2025, beating only GE and PRX. The reason why I say only for PRX is because at this point of time, PRX was practically playing with their monitors turned off and their hands only on the W key. Hearing DFM beating them 13-1 was, however, one of the funniest days of Pacific history. With once again another derby win, they would end this year with 5 in total. Definitely an improvement, but not much to improve on considering they began with 0. To be honest, all they really need to do is build a strong roster around Mei, and I feel like they can get off this list pretty soon. Now, I know some of you guys may already be disliking the video, but Exochris, doesn't Global Esports have more wins than DFM? Haven't they also won against DFM a couple times? Well, hold on to your high horses, fellas, because there's a key reason why this team is shitter than Detonation. Yes, the whole gist is that they're a global team, it's in the name, but aren't they taking a bit too far? The organization itself is based in India, and you're telling me that they couldn't find 3 people in the... Let's see what Google has to say. 1.45 billion people that live there to form an Indian core. Instead, the team clumps a weird mixture of semi-talented players from other countries into one team and expects them to perform like they're the next PRX. I feel like it's pretty shitty to not include any players from your home country, especially one as large as India. And it's not like they haven't had any Indian players on the team before. Global has previously had the worldwide iconic SK Rossi on the team, and whether or not you treated him as a meme or an actual contender for greatest Pacific duelist, honest, one thing that's undeniable is that he provided a lot of clout and attention for the team. Let me tell you, the glaze that he got on YouTube and Twitch chat was crazy. Nowadays, the team is a retirement home for Tier 1 Pacific players with little traction to the team besides people who love the players individually. I also have a personal vendetta against the team. Sure, call me biased, I don't really care. Global has single-handedly ruined some of my favorite players. Aaron, one of my favorite players from Exet, would retire after spending a season with them. And Ronski, who was one of the handful of Aussies who actually played Tier 1, would see the end of his career with this team as well. This epidemic may continue on to my favorite player of all time, Autumn, as he has already been signed for 2026. Global mismanages these players so bad, it's not even funny. Players who have left this prison have actually seen an upwards trajectory in their career, such as Texture and Monyet. Mr. 4K would obviously join Gen G and go ahead to win Masters Shanghai, whilst Monyet would see a third place finish with PRX and become a core member of RRQ. I will cut them some slack as they did sign coach MCE and YouTuber Platoon this year, but that is the little good within the terrible, and their impact was not very noticeable. You can call me biased all you want, but what is a fact is that Global should return to the basics by going back to their roots and signing strong Indian players. It's better to suck as a team that represents your own country than to suck as a team with no identity at all. I know a lot of you guys were expecting this team to pop up, and you may be surprised that's not the top spot in this list. Arguably the most recognizable terrible team in VCT, KC in 2023 was truly a specimen. With the roster core consisting of CS legends XMS and Scream, alongside new faces Shin, Nuzera, and Nivera, who is also Scream's little bro, this team looked solid on paper. It's only when you get into the nitty gritty that you come to realize that KC management had to be on something when dealing with this team. Scream, the man with the highest headshot percentage ever in CSGO, will be placed on IGL duty, yet still be placed on a duelist role. Questionable, but there are duelists that still IGL like YZ from BLG. The issue was that Scream didn't know that the L in IGL stands for leader, as there were zero comprehensive strats from him as the team went 0-2 against Team Liquid, Vitality, and Heretics. There are too many funny clips from this era that I would need to make a compilation video on them, but let's cue the most iconic one from everyone's favorite egghead, Sideshow.
He's not got it. He's not got it. What? There's no time on the defuse, Lauren.
You fucking melons!
It got so bad that Nuzera requested to leave after the honeymoon phase of the team. You know shit's hit the fan when one of your players, of their own choice, decides to leave your tier 1 team before the first half of the year has even finished. With such a shock decision coming through at the beginning of the season, KC would huddle around and engage the very few brain cells they had to bring up a replacement. Their ideal candidate? Their assistant coach, Zeish. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The sad part is that he would actually make an improvement to the team, snatching Scream's IGL role from him. Probably for the better, I would say. Even a Silver from Ranked, who's running it down as Reyna, had better strats than him. Hell, they'd even beat Koi during the season whilst he was on the team, going from 2 wins pre-Zeish to, drumroll please, 4 wins in the whole of 2023. Needless to say, this team was not gonna stick together after that shit show. The 2 Belgian brothers would actually retire off this stint, ending Scream's long tenure across 2 esports. XMS, Shin, and Nuzera would all go on to play for DVM esports at different times, which dedicated fans of tier 2 may know for having the cops being called on them. But that's a story for another time, as KC would rebuild into a somewhat competitive team in EMEA. Funnily enough, Zeish would be the only one to stick it out with the team. Hopefully there won't be another situation where he has to play Valorant again. Teased towards the end of my previous video. Go watch that, by the way, if you haven't. Furia grabs gold in the worst possible category. Ironically though, this organization will be the only one on the list to ever go to multiple internationals, albeit this was pre-franchising. With roster and management changes throughout the year, I'm not even gonna bother naming the key players, because at the end of the day, they were still complete utter dog shit. Sporting an uneventful but not horrible track record in 2023, the team would progressively degenerate, doing pretty bad in 2024 and sporting an amazing 1 win in 2025. Yes, 1. win. Oh right, you thought that was bad? Well, I've got news for you, little Timmy. Their only win throughout 2025, the only time they beat Ascension Clowns 2G was with a full team of substitutes. Yes, the screen isn't broken, nor do you need to go to Specsavers. That is a full North American team playing under the Furia banner. Do you know how embarrassing it is for your only win to be from a group of people that don't even represent your home country? This is beginning to sound like global esports, but 100 times worse. The blue pill was definitely to keep this team as their main roster, but kudos to Furia, they took the red pill and thugged it out with their Brazilian team. Let's look at the bright side though. They would pick up 3 more map wins and 2 off-season pity wins. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I really couldn't find any more hopium for this team. People talk about how there are teams that are untouchable because they're so much better than the rest of the competition. But in this case, Furia is the opposite. They were untouchable because of how utterly dog shit they were in 2025. With the exception of 2G Gaming, which had like 20 times less funding than them, by the way, no other organization has come close to being this horrifically terrible at Valorant. Hey, so I know this is slightly off topic, but I found this Reddit post from 2024 about the state of Furia. According to Frost, who was their coach at the time, their head of management was a chef they hired to cook for the team. I know it doesn't apply to the 2025 roster, but it's fucking hilarious to see that a random ass person they grabbed to flip burgers became the manager of a multi-million esports team. Really says a lot about how they do things over there. If you're asking why they've been placed higher than the tragedy of KC, the reason why is simply because of the vibes. Sure, Casey was honestly the same level of bad, but it was so funny to see how they failed as they provided us with some absolute howlers. Now I want you to name a funny moment from Furia this year. I'll give you a second. Can't think of one? Exactly. It was honestly just sad to watch this team play, as you knew they'd lose against whoever their opponent was. Leo Faro will have to go down to Brazil to save this org, as I have no idea how you're meant to fix a team with no win condition at all. Bless your souls, Furia. With my hate session over, it's time to look back and reflect. Were these teams terrible? Most definitely. Could they change their fortunes for the better? Probably not for Koi. Though there is pure hatred in my heart for some of these teams, I genuinely think that if the organizations locked in and made smart management moves, they would be able to redeem themselves. For now though, they will sit on this list until the next round of idiots are released into the top level of competition. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch y'all later.